Hey, welcome to another episode of It Resolves. We just got done dancing. My name is Kevin.
I'm Will.
And we're happy to have you with us today. Hello. This is the Filler Funday. We're going to have some just fun topics, some casual topics that we'd like to hit on.
Interesting things, things you may not have heard, whatever. However.
But before that,
we
got a little bit of a shout out we need to make. If you've listened to the last two episodes, you know about this. If you have not, Will...
Please put your hands together, your hands and hearts together for Mrs. Puzzled Periwinkle, Mrs. Allison Warfield, the lovely Magic the Gathering player, competitive player, I will say also. Much more than Kevin or I.
Oh, yes.
She would kick our butts.
Probably. Yeah, there's not a doubt about that. She does a lot of Instagram work. She has done a lot for the Instagram community as far as Magic the Gathering goes. She also streams on Twitch.
Yes, she does.
Both of those links to her Instagram and her Twitch will be in the description of this video and any videos going forward, so you can absolutely go visit her content, go see what she's got going on. Enjoy her stuff. She's got a lot going on. She's done a lot for the Magic community. So
appreciate what you do for us specifically and for the community in general, Miss Allison.
Absolutely.
She's an awesome person.
She really
likes people.
Yeah.
All right.
I love that you like pointing that out.
It's just a great compliment to give folks.
It is.
How can you say something bad about someone who's awesome and also likes people?
That's true. You really can't say much.
It sounded like I was about to rap, but I promise I won't.
Maybe one day. On the 100th episode.
Don't tempt me.
It's starting now. All right. Well, as we do on our Filler Fundays, on our Sunday episode, we like to do the most aptly named segment on our show, the Kiki-Weekly.
Kiki-Weekly.
Which, if you don't know, is the combo that we just like to highlight. It doesn't have to necessarily be a competitively viable combo or even a good combo. We just like to talk about some combos that we see.
Something neat that works.
Maybe it'll inspire you to make a deck around it or do something like that. This one already has a deck around it, and it is very competitively viable.
Yes, very much.
It is the Dark Depths Vampire Hex Mage combo.
I heard all of the legacy players go, ugh.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting one. So if you don't know, Dark Depths is a legendary snow land. It enters the battlefield with 10 ice counters on it. You can pay 3 to remove an ice counter from it. And when it has no counters on it, you sacrifice it. If you do, you put a 20/20 avatar creature token with flying and indestructible named Merit Lage onto the battlefield.
Pretty crazy.
So you can very easily get a 20/20 indestructible flying guy. Kind of just wins the game.
Pretty much.
For those of you who don't know, in addition, Vampire Hex Mage is 2 black for a 2/1 first strike vampire. You can sacrifice it to remove all counters from target permanent. So
the line is there.
The line's there. If you don't see it, you sack Vampire Hex Mage after playing Dark Depths, removing all of the counters from Dark Depths, and then you immediately get a 20/20 legendary indestructible flying creature named Merit Lage.
On as soon as turn 2? 3, probably?
2? You can get it away with 2. If you Dark Depths and then Urborg and do something like that, you can get it on turn 2.
Okay.
Very cool. Very awesome, easy win combo. There is also, it's worth noting, Thespian Stage, I believe, is a land that copies another land.
Yes.
And so if you play Dark Depths, cast Thespian, or play Thespian Stage, copying the Dark Depths, you keep the new copy of Dark Depths, which has no counters on it.
Yep.
Because it didn't enter the battlefield as Dark Depths. And so it immediately will also become the 20/20. So a very cool combo. It sees a lot of play in some of the Eternal formats. Yeah. It's just a cool combo. It also sees a lot of commander play and things like that. Just a 20/20. I mean,
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's indestructible, so you can't just kill it. Like, nope. It's pretty awesome. A very cool combo. A combo that I wish I had access to, but I do not have a Dark Depths. I do have a playset of Hex Mages and Thespian Stage, so if anybody wants to just send me a Dark Depths, that'd be cool. I'd appreciate it.
We can't start begging for cards yet, can
No,
we?
not yet.
Not yet.
But maybe one day. So very cool. take that as you will, build some decks around it, look up some decks, they're already made.
Yeah.
But build something of your own. I think that's always fun, and see what you can get out of it.
And if you find some funky combo, let us know about it.
Yeah, we'd love to highlight it as a Kiki-Weekly. If we think it's great, we'll put it up there.
Absolutely.
So, we do appreciate any interaction that you guys have for us. So,
agreed, Kevin. Agreed.
With that, though, we're going to go into our Filler Funday topic of the day.
Yes.
What you got for us, Will?
So, perusing the Aether, I'll say.
Ooh.
Topical. Perusing the Aether for Magic content, for things that tickled my fancy.
Okay.
I came across some Magic Theory. Magic Theory is a topic that not a lot of people are talking about anymore because a lot of it's fleshed out.
Sure.
But I wanted to highlight something that was kind of interesting, and it plays mostly to limited players. However, anyone who builds decks, who brews decks, should also be familiar with this theory. This is quadrant theory, for anyone who may or may not know.
Okay.
Quadrant theory essentially is determining a card's value based on 4 quadrants of criticism. Okay? So you're drafting a pack. You're looking at a pack, and you've got 2 or 3 viable options. Let's say it's your first pack. What do you first pick? What are some things you consider? Off the bat, for me, it's like mana cost. It's curve. It's when can I get whatever this is online. Is this likely to wheel? Should I see this again?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? Well, if you retool your thinking a little bit and consider that in limited, the board is the win con more often than
generally that is definitely the case.
Although I will say, in one of the GPs, the Seventh Sun card won.
Which is awesome.
A game. Not like the...
You shouldn't expect that, but
no,
that's pretty
It won
awesome.
a game. It was pretty sweet. But the board is the Mag Daddy. The board is where limited games are won and lost. So thinking about that, let's think about some things that affect the board. With quadrant theory, the 4 things are... the 4 quadrants, rather, let me say, are the opening quadrant. That's your first 2 to 3 turns when you're first starting to develop your hand, play some things out of your hand, get card advantage, whatever. So think 1 to 3 turns, I can't play a bomb or a fatty here.
Yeah.
That's the first quadrant you can consider. The second is in a stalemate. If the game is gassed out, if both players are kind of top decking or just, all right, swing, you block, I block here, nothing really happens, but just kind of egging the other person on, a stalled game. We've all been there. These things, cards that get you card advantage, things that alter the board state instantly, are things to consider there. The third quadrant to consider is winning, right? Is this a card that if I pull is just a final nail in the coffin?
Yeah.
Is this something that just pushes me over the edge, pushes someone off the edge, whatever it is, whatever I need? Pretty much any spell here is good, you could say. Something to think about. If a card is not good in this quadrant, what the heck is it doing in your deck? If you can't pull a card and say, this is going to help me win better,
it shouldn't really be.
Probably not. I guess you could say that for combo decks that have already comboed off and are just kind of waiting, okay.
Yeah.
That's the one exception. But still, if I can't pull a card and instantly benefit, then it might not serve a strong spot. The fourth and hardest quadrant to break into, and this is probably the most important, maybe besides winning, is losing.
Okay.
These are cards that pull you from the depths of a sticky situation.
Right.
And can turn it around, maybe.
Okay.
Hopefully. Kevin, if you think back to some of our games, this is a quick aside.
Okay.
Our games on MTGO that we stream.
Shameless plug.
But this is our own content. I can plug us as much as I want.
That's true, yeah. Go visit us at Twitch TV.
Please. Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. Wink.
Comment below.
But really. Are there any cards that come to mind that you thought of when I was naming some of these? Anything that you want to pull out from?
Well, something that I felt won the game for us in multiple occasions was Fling. That would be definitely the card that came to mind for me.
Good. Okay, so let's take Fling.
Okay.
Fling is an instant.
Yep.
It is 1 colorless, 1 red. It says, as an additional cost to Fling, sacrifice target creature. Target creature deals damage to either opponent or creature.
Opponent or creature equal to
that card's power.
The creature's power. Correct.
So some applications. Is this a good opening card? Not really.
Not really, no.
It could be used as removal, but
ideally, no.
No. Is it a stalemate, gassed out card? Can it get you past?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Absolutely. I would also say this can, if you're in locked combat, you're basically not trading with anything. You're just swinging to bet.
Yeah.
You can fling a guy over and...
yeah, you got it.
There's guaranteed damage. Winning. We just said.
Yeah, it won us a number of games.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have 3 of them in a deck.
That's true.
Just draft fling, people. Like,
I mean, it is super fun. No one sees it coming.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we did, like, the third game. We were like, oh, he's got fling.
Yeah, we knew that. I mean, we played it so much at that point. We were like, yeah, we know it's coming.
We see the signs. He's swinging into a bunch of 1/1s. Well,
we have, like, 4 life left. He's got a 5/5. All right, fling is there.
It's coming. It's coming. Is it a game that can help you win when you're losing? Is it a card that can help you win when you're losing?
It can.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it depends a little bit on the situation, but I do think, you know, if you're losing because of a problematic creature that you know, for whatever reason couldn't get rid of, maybe fling is the way to get rid of it because it does work as removal. That was smooth. It also can sort of knock their life total down, and if they're in range, it can kill them immediately. So you do get a little bit of a buffer there.
Absolutely.
But I will say,
okay,
something to note with fling specifically, and this applies to a lot of cards, it doesn't win on its own.
True.
You do need a creature to make this happen.
Yes.
So I think that's worth noting that you are relying on 2 cards, not just fling.
Very true.
So I think that's an important... I just think, especially in this instance, when you're thinking of winning, yes, if you've got the creature for it. And so I think that's just something to keep in mind.
Great. That's a great point. A card that I instantly thought of was Oketra. That we played some great games with. Not awesome in your opening because you kind of need to develop your board to make her work as good.
It also is a 4-mana card, so you're not going to play it, you know, in the early turns.
Of course
unless you ramp.
Oh, that's true. However, it is fantastic in the final 3 quadrants, I would say.
It's amazing.
Stalemate, you just put a 3/6 bomb that makes more guys.
Yeah.
Indestructible. Like, that's something they have to answer. And if they can't, very soon you could turn the tide.
Absolutely.
When you're winning, I mean, someone drops a god on your board and just starts making little dudes.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
When you're losing, you know...
It can help you dig out of it.
It can. Again, this is the hardest place to really break into.
Yeah, but I do think you're right. I know there was specifically one game where our opponent actually played in Oketra.
Yep.
We were able to remove it, but we were still not in the best place. But we got to drop ours, which won us the game with 2 seconds left on the clock. Just saying.
Sweet.
But it can dig you out of that, for
Very
sure.
much. So, I had a little activity prepared for today.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
That I thought about.
I'm a little nervous.
I've not like got the answers, quote unquote, for these at all. But there's a blogger came up with a little grading system here to grade cards and a little cross. So, Kevin is looking at a little T that I made, a plus sign, if you will, that's got the 4 quadrants in each of those. Developing, stalemate, winning, and losing. Okay? There's a key.
Okay.
Plus means this card is really good in this quadrant. Circle means it's okay. Take it or leave it.
Okay.
Minus is fail.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to live.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to grade 2 cards.
I'm nervous about this. All right.
We're going to grade 2 cards from Amonkhet.
Okay.
With quadrant theory. I wanted to pick 2 cards in different colors that fit in different decks that are rare. That,
interesting,
could kind of go against each other. We'll see.
Okay.
So, Kevin, what are the 2 cards that I picked?
Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons.
Okay.
Should I read out the entire card?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. It is a black and a green for a 2/2 legendary human cleric. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Good. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch.
Okay.
So that's the first card.
Okay.
The second card is Heart Piercer Manticore. It's 2 and 2 red for a 4/3 Manticore. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, it deals damage to that creature's equal to that creature's power to target creature or player. It also has Embalm for 5 and a red.
Okay. So, like I said, live today, we're going to try to exercise some quadrant theory and pick apart these cards.
Okay.
To sort of get our thought processes working, give you some examples on what you could consider. So, let's start with Hapatra. Let's not do, like, against each other, per se. So, you open a pack, brand new.
Yeah.
You see Hapatra is your rare. Let's say you're considering picking her over something else.
Sure. Let's grade it.
Yeah,
so
go ahead. Get right into it.
I think in the opening turns of the game, because this is a 2-drop, it sort of develops the board on its own.
Okay.
I think this is great.
Okay.
As sort of the opening, the section number 1, if you will.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I would. So the first quadrant, things to note, whenever we pulled this a while ago, 2 mana, 2/2. It's a round body. So you're not getting really a bonus for attacking or blocking with it in any one direction, is what I mean. And yeah, it also develops the board on its own. Whenever you put a -1 counter on something, you get more things. So that's great. It'll help develop your board state as you go on. So for the opening, absolutely it passes.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Now, second quadrant, stalemate.
Less so.
Yeah.
I don't really think it does much at all in a stalemate. I think it sort of depends on the stalemate itself.
That's a great point.
If it's sort of a stalemate with only 2/2 creatures, maybe. But other than that, I don't think it does well in a stalemate, to be honest. I would say it doesn't do well at all.
The only viability I can really see, if you just play it as a bear, it's not going to be good.
No.
But if you have a deck that puts a lot of counters on things, -1, -1s, you don't have to deal combat damage with Hapatra to get those little snakes.
Right.
You just have to put counters on things. So if you have an engine to do that, like
the ability is what you're saying can dig you out.
Right. So
I see what you're saying.
Could put Death Touchers on the field, which would
But I
deter
will
attacks.
say, with just her as just this card,
sure,
I would say no. I think you're right. With extra cards, maybe. But I think just looking at Hapatra,
you're right. So things to
not.
Consider during the stalemate.
Okay.
If this card hits the battlefield, does stuff change instantly? Not just my opponent's playstyle. And you're right. Hapatra doesn't really do it. It gets you benefits, but it's not like, boom, you know, I'm there. So would you say it has failed the stalemate or is neutral? It definitely doesn't pass.
No, it definitely doesn't pass. I'd honestly say it fails only because it requires other cards to make it good in a stalemate.
Okay. I would agree, because in a stalemate, you might not be able to get in for damage, which doesn't really, it doesn't make it as viable. It is just a bear at that point. Okay, so what about winning? What about putting the pressure on?
If you're winning, I can see... if you're putting pressure on, again, in Limited, it is a sort of board state format, so I would assume that you're going to be attacking. And this does... it's not a strong body, but it does generally attack fairly profitably.
Sure.
With its ability, so assuming it gets damage in. That being said, I would say it does okay in that regard. I don't think it's great. I don't think it, 100% passes, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Just because if you're winning already, a 2/2 body that maybe adds to your win a little bit doesn't seem to be doing much for me. I do think it could help you, but I just mean that it is relying on dealing damage to really do anything that's favorably impacting the board.
So I'm gonna disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Here's what I mean.
I hate you now, but that's fine.
I've always known this. This day would come.
That's why we do this.
So you play Vizier Poisons.
Sure.
Hapatra now is a must answer because say they're building up something to deal with your big threat. Let's say you've got a 7/7 Minotaur or whatever it may be, and they can profitably block the Minotaur. Well, now they have to they make a choice. Do I block the Minotaur, save myself the damage?
Sure.
Do I block the Vizier and keep the board clear?
Okay.
Probably killing the Vizier in a lot of instances, which is fine, but then that's 7 damage that got through.
Okay. I see your point.
If it goes unblocked, you you now have a chump blocker.
You now get some extra stuff in. Okay.
Right.
You know what? I will concede and agree.
That's a point for Will.
Yeah. Point for Will.
Okay.
It only took, like 11 or 12 episodes? Anyway.
All right.
No, I will concede. I think that makes sense. I may be thinking of this in basic terms. So I think you're correct. That would definitely
Okay. Cool.
pass.
We're gonna be a good little plus signal.
A little plus sign.
Now, losing. If you're losing and you draw Hapatra, first thought.
No.
Yep.
It doesn't do anything. I mean,
it kind of doesn't. You're right.
it's a blocker.
Great.
That's about it. Again, it's a board state format if you're in limited, and so assuming they're attacking you, generally, a 2/2 isn't going to get there, right?
No.
Like,
Probably not.
if it had Death Touch itself,
Yes.
that
was what I was gonna say.
then potentially, right? Like it at least will trade with something a lot bigger than itself,
Absolutely.
which is great. But because it doesn't have Death Touch, only the snake tokens that it generates do, I think this doesn't dig you out of any holes.
You're right.
By any means.
I say one of two things has to happen. The Death Touch makes it exceptional.
Yeah.
If it said whenever Vizier Poisons deals combat damage to a creature or player, make a
That would definitely help.
put the counter. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a snake out just from dealing combat damage to a thing,
Then you can block,
Right.
then get another Death Touch, and then
Right.
block something else.
right?
Yeah.
that
I
really
would agree
makes
with
it
that.
a lot better.
But as it stands now, I think it
no.
just straight up fails.
I think you're right. So there's no way to like tally these up. I guess I'm sure there is, but I have not
Okay.
concocted any way to like grade it from this. But so far we're passing quadrant 1. We are fail quadrant 2. I'm sorry, it's fail quadrant 4, not neutral. I lied. We are passing quadrants 1 and 3, failing in 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So is Hapatra a first pick? My first instinct is gonna be no.
Okay.
What about you, Kev?
I think based on the grading system, on this individual card on its own, no.
Okay.
That being said, I do think it's worthwhile to note it depends on the other cards in the pack and
Sure.
the format that it's in.
Sure. And this would probably be a first pick in a third or second pack where you if you're going this direction,
If
with
you're
these
dedicated,
counters,
I mean, the thing about this card is I've actually played against it in limited. It's great on the first couple turns. Other than that, I mean, it has its moments, but that's really it. So is it first pickable? But yeah, I think it's first pickable, but I don't know if it's not gonna always be your first pick. I think there are better cards out there that fit more of these quadrants and things like that. And based on the quadrants, definitely not.
Gotcha. I got you. All right.
So,
Let's move on. Card number 2.
all right.
Heart Piercer Manticore.
Doesn't do anything in the early game.
You're right.
It is a 4-drop.
Yeah. So if we're thinking about those first 3 turns, this is really just
a card
you're
in your
sitting
hand.
on. Right. Unfortunate. You do like to see it because you've got something to build to potentially, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would say it probably fails the early game.
Sure.
I will say, if you have a discard engine, you need to discard stuff. This is viable to discard because of that embalm.
Because of the embalm.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you could potentially see this card again, which means it's not ever really dead in your hand, even on turn 1 or anything. But I don't think that's strong enough to say it wins the early game. So I'm gonna give it a fail. Quadrant 2, a stalemate. Now this is a 4/3 body. Let's point out,
which is notable. It's strong. 4 is very good, especially for a 4-drop.
Right.
That's pretty even. The 3 on the back end isn't great.
Yeah, kind of the staggered body, like I harp on.
But it does have embalm.
True.
Which gives it some longevity. So even if you do have to trade it off with something, which most likely you will be trading, not just chump blocking, you get it back later. So I actually think it does pretty well in a stalemate.
Okay.
I would say.
Yep. It's also worth noting its effect is essentially fling.
It is. Yeah.
So you drop this second main phase and throw a creature at their face.
Yeah.
Or at their big fatty, whatever that may be.
It starts to throw things. It gets things moving a little bit, right?
Yeah, it can kind of shake up the board.
Some damage in. Maybe it gives them. I think this does a lot in a stalemate.
Right. And I think it's worth noting that at power 4, you probably feel okay throwing away something that will remove something.
I mean, this is sort of the mid to late game that you're going to be playing this,
Yes.
being a 4-drop. And so you're probably going to have 1 or 2 stragglers in the early game left behind.
Sure.
And maybe your opponent is in the same boat. And so either getting rid of one of those or dealing a couple extra points of damage just straight to the face, it seems pretty good.
Yeah, it'll win a race.
Yeah.
That can be said.
I like it.
Okay, so what about winning in that quadrant?
Yeah.
Definitely.
It just wins you the game,
Yeah.
theoretically. I mean, again, it is just like a fling on a stick, and you get 2 activations out of it with Embalm.
Very true.
And so as long as you have another creature out, and if they're at a lower life total, which in a winning situation,
Ideally they would be, yes.
you can just win the game.
Yeah.
And you also get a 4/3 body out of it. Like, this seems great in a winning situation.
I would agree. Absolutely. Now losing, the trickiest one again.
I still think it. I don't know if it 100% digs you out, but it helps a lot.
Yeah, I would say so. If there's a creature on their side that is just tenacious, it's tough, whatever it is,
maybe you can kill it.
Yeah, maybe it's a Patra that they're not targeting or not attacking with, and you need it gone.
Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe
yeah.
you can remove a smaller guy and throw it at Hepatra.
And again, worth noting, you get 2 activations out of this.
True.
So you can, clear out one of the bigger threats the first turn, and then clear out maybe a smaller threat the next turn. Again, that's assuming you have creatures.
I just had a Magic Candyland experience thought pop into my head.
That's not weird.
You have 2 Heart Piercer Manticores.
Oh.
All right. First Heart Piercer just flings whatever. Second one flings
Comes
Heart
in,
Piercer.
flings the other.
Then Embalm fling
Embalm
the other.
it, fling the other, and then
Embalm fling the
yeah.
other. Right?
Yeah,
That's
that
pretty
seems
good.
Pretty good. You can chain it. That's kind of cool.
It's neat.
If you have 2 of them.
Right.
Worth
That's the
noting.
thing.
Which,
Well, I guess it would work with Fling, but it doesn't replace its
yeah.
body. So,
I mean,
but
that's pretty cool. I like this card. I think in limited especially, it's great.
I think so too.
And yes, in a losing situation, I would say it passes.
I would say so as well. It could dig you out of some, not all, of course.
Yeah.
But some.
Yeah.
Okay, but when do you really take this card? What's its projected draft round?
I would
term
draft
for
it
you?
first pick.
You think so?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Again, it shines more in the later game, the mid to late game. But I think it's a solid rare. It's a great bomb because it really affects all 3 of those later to mid to late game quadrants.
Okay.
It affects all of them, and it does really well at what it's supposed to be doing. And so I would absolutely say first pick it.
Okay.
Probably more than Hepatra for sure.
I'll say one of Hepatra's strengths is you build a deck around Hepatra.
That's true. The other thing holding Hepatra back, which is not noted in the quadrants, is its 2 colors.
That's true.
That's something
fair.
to note. Generally, when you're drafting, and this isn't an end all be all statement, but first picking a gold card is generally not the best idea, only because of the color constraints. It sort of forces you into those colors a little bit more. And again, I'm not saying that if you pick a gold card first time, you're doing anything wrong, and I'm not even saying you have to use that card later on. You could just ditch it and go into something completely different. But a card like Hepatra is exactly what you said, a build-around card.
Yeah.
And so in a case like that, if you do first pick it, you're sort of tying yourself into the green and black color range, whereas with the Manticore, it is red, so that it's a single color. You probably want to play red, but you can move into other colors if need be.
I think that's fair.
And I think that's worth noting. Again, sort of in addition to the quadrant sort of theory about this, that the Manticore would probably just be better in general than Hepatra.
I see what you're saying. I would probably agree with you. I would really have to think about how much I want to play with those counters.
Yeah.
And that is so, you need specific pieces to make that work when you draft.
You do.
So I do think it would be easier to draft an aggro deck with red in it than a -1/-1 counter deck.
Yeah.
And anyone who's experienced in limited, if you disagree, please tell me why. I want to learn sums. But yeah, I think 2 good cards, Heart Piercer probably pulls ahead.
Yeah.
Not that you'd see both of those in the same pack. But
no, you would not. But I think
say.
definitely the Manticore pulls ahead for me.
Okay.
So
Quadrant theory, Kevin? Thoughts, comments, concerns?
I actually like it. I find it a little bit helpful. I don't think it's the end all be all, and that there are other things to think about, like color constrictions, as we just talked about. But I do like it. It gives a little bit of a different outlook on drafts.
And don't bring a notebook to your next draft and write out for 3 cards. You have a time limit, so. And
if you do that and somebody's like, "Hey, why are you doing that?" Don't blame it on us. We told you not to.
Yeah, please don't.
No, but I do think that's helpful. I think it's something to think about in a draft. I'm not saying it is the end all be all, but I do think it helps for sure.
So main takeaways, important things to consider for deck building, not just limited. Our card's going to get you out of certain situations. What is the versatility? There's one card that comes to mind that is good in all of these. That is my favorite card, Vampire Nighthawk. You're generally not unhappy to see him whenever he shows up.
Yeah.
Probably worst in losing, but even still, he trades.
Yeah, he trades and he gains you a little life or something like that. So it's not terrible even in that instance.
Things to think about.
Fair enough. And a good example. Everybody loves a Nighthawk. I'm going to post a picture on our Instagram of all the Nighthawks that I have. Because I think I have a stack of 20 of them.
I've got 8.
A great card though.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you for that. That's actually very helpful. I will be using that when I draft. We hope you guys do too. And before we go today, we do have still our Crack a Pack, but before that, I wanted to touch just very quickly on some control options.
Okay.
Control is a style of playing that I just happen to love. For those of you who may not know, it's exactly what it sounds like. You control the game. You get to say yes to some spells and no to others, and that's kind of it. The idea, to give a little bit more detail, is you control by countering, or you draw cards, gain card advantage, tempo things out, until you get to the late game where you can drop just an enormous bomb of some kind, whether that's a planeswalker, whether that's a giant creature, things like that. And then win the game very quickly with that.
Okay.
You're less concerned with your life total throughout the early to mid game process, unless you're against aggro decks or something. But generally, you're not too worried about your life total as long as you have some life. You're fine. Is really the mentality. So something to keep in mind there.
Okay.
And what I wanted to talk about is the variety of control decks. And this varies from format to format of what's viable and what's not. But I think it's, there's some examples like Esper, Jeskai control, Grixis control, blue-white control, mono-blue control. There's a lot of different variants, blue-black.
Even Bant control has been thrown around.
Even Bant control, there's green-black control. They don't always have to run blue. There are different kinds of control. And what I think is important to note about these is you have to sort of decide based on your metagame what is the most viable. The best example in modern this best example I can think of in modern, a couple years ago, American control, Jeskai control, red, white, blue, was the popular control deck at the time, and it still is. It's still used, but it's not top 8ing as much and things like that.
Interesting.
And I think it's interesting to note that because it was really, really good at that time, because a lot of the decks it was going up against were creature-based decks.
Okay.
Things that die to Lightning Bolt, things that die to Path to Exile.
Sure.
Things that die to Supreme Verdict. Things like that all fit into those color constraints were what the deck was up against. So it was doing really, really well at that time, where it's doing a little bit less, well right now, because there are other kinds of decks out there. Things like Ad Nauseam that, Lightning Bolt hits to the face, but it really doesn't do what it's meant to do, which is just to sort of deal some damage.
So combo decks
and
stuff. Okay.
Combo decks, things like that. It's just interesting to note because things like Grixis control are really taking the forefront now. Things like Culligan's Command, which has a little bit more sort of just variety of uses. It can hit artifacts. It gives you some recursion. It's a little more focused on you as the player instead of the opponent. Things like that are really interesting and worth noting, and I think that because there are so many varieties of control, varieties of deck lists, different colors that you can use when you build a control deck, I think it's interesting and just important for you as you brew these decks, if you're brewing them or even net decking them, whatever you decide to do, think about your metagame.
Okay.
Think about what's going to be good against the decks that you will be seeing. If you're seeing a lot of creature decks, maybe pick the colors with all the sweepers, with all the burn, with all the path to exiles, things like that. If you're not seeing a bunch of creatures and you're seeing a bunch of combo decks, maybe run some black to get some Thoughtseize, some hand disruption, things like that. And just in general, think about your metagame. Think about if you are going to play control, what is going to be helpful in your specific play group. It's really easy to build a control deck that you think is going to be great, and then it just not do anything.
You're right. You're right. That's true.
Counter spells, again, generally work against a lot of things, but I actually streamed a deck on our Twitch that does really well against control, against counter spells specifically, because most of the spells are uncounterable. It's a green-white, just sort of Selesnya beatdown deck, Genesis Wave being the top end.
Sure.
But it runs things like Loxodon Smiter. It also runs things like Mistcutter Hydra, which both of which are uncounterable, and Mistcutter has protection from blue, which is just great.
Yeah. That's a solid.
But then on top of that, it runs things like Aether Vial. So your creatures can be uncounterable and get played as though they had flash, basically. You just can't respond to them.
Wow.
And so you get a bunch of this sort of you can't do anything about these giant creatures. So
I like that.
It's a very cool deck. It's not necessarily competitively viable or anything like that. It's just a deck I built for fun. We may stream it again some this week, but
fun stuff.
Just something to note. If those are the kinds of decks you're going to be up against, you need sacrifice outlets or maybe wrath effects or something like that instead of counter spells. Control doesn't just have to be counter spells. It doesn't just have to be creature kills. It can be whatever you decide it needs to be.
That's great to point out. One reason Grixis is doing so well right now, we touched on a little while ago when we did deck tech on Grixis and 8-Rack. It disrupts combos effectively with hand disruption and just removal. Which is, if I had to imagine, is why it's doing better than American Control. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, it's not like you don't see creature decks or anything like that in modern tournaments. It's just that because combo decks are a little bit more on an upswing, it just doesn't do quite as well. I think also the bigger deck at the time when American Control was such a prominent player was Birthing Pod. That is a creature-based deck, right? That's the entire deck.
No kidding.
So, and it had some natural resilience to the American Control decks, which made it just great anyway. Things like Voice of Resurgence, where you sort of get a 2-for-1 no matter what. Things like that. But it was creature-based, and so American Control could burn things out. It could path things. It had its options. Whereas now, again, not a tier 1 deck, but Ad Nauseam is a combo deck. If you can just Thoughtseize that away after a Grixis Control deck, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's true.
There's a lot of specific meta calls that are made, and that's why we see this sort of fluctuating wave of what control deck is being played. So just something to think about. I just wanted to touch on a little bit. It may be that we expand on individual decks of control in later episodes.
Sure. We have a deck tech coming up. So
we do have a deck tech coming up.
Who knows?
Tomorrow, in fact.
Yeah. Good to say. Magic is an ever-changing format, ever-flowing, and with changes, Kevin.
Yeah.
We have one thing important we need to change today.
And what's that, Will?
Well, last time, if you remember, I pulled the sexy, sexy Minotaur.
You did.
Neheb. The worthy, not the unworthy me for 11 episodes.
He became worthy.
Let's say that. Yeah, definitely it. Yes, so I need to pick a new card.
You do.
That I'm going for.
And what card might that be?
I already have it in mind, my man.
Okay.
It is Combat Celebrant.
And tell me what that is.
It is a beautiful 4/1 red card.
Okay.
It's a mythic rare. It's just looking for love. So
you in the first episode, right. Even though you're married.
Right. I just want my wife to love me. So this is a 4/1 for 3, 2 colorless, 1 red. It is a mythic rare that says, if Combat Celebrant hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase.
Seems pretty good.
So in an exert deck, essentially, you get 2 phases of exert.
Which is amazing.
Okay, here's something I want to point out. Magic Fairy Christmas Land in my head.
Oh.
I've got 4 of these on board.
What a wonderful place.
Here's what. Look, bear with me now.
Okay.
Realistically, you might have 2 at one time, maybe. But let's just say that you have 2 at one time, 2 Emberhorn Minotaurs and something else. You attack, exert the first one, exert everybody else except that other combat celebrant, right? That's one phase of combat. You get a second one from the first combat celebrant.
I just have a question.
Wait.
Okay.
And then you exert the second combat celebrant during the second phase, so you get 3 combat phases.
Okay, so question though.
Answer.
Can you exert both of them at the same time, which will untap both of them at the same time because each of them untap the other one? Is that a thing?
Oh God.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It seems like that might be the interaction.
Oh God.
I mean, I was just saying, could you
Does
get
that
infinite
mean-
combat steps? No, you couldn't get infinite.
No, that's impossible. That's not.
I mean, tell us if we're wrong. That'd be pretty amazing. Like,
I'm so excited
I like it.
at the potential. I just thought you could get like a string of them. I don't know if that's true. I have to look at the wording again.
I want to look at it.
I don't. Does that work?
We may or may not have one here.
Kevin
That was
may
already
have already
opened.
bought one.
Um.
No, he opened it. That's right. So let's
So
just.
okay, if it has not been exerted. Oh, okay.
Good. There's a catch-all.
There's the catch. Okay.
Okay. So since it says if it hasn't been exerted,
Dang, that would have been so cool. Infinite combat.
my little red heart got pounding for a second.
That
there.
would have been amazing.
That would have been broken.
It's still pretty cool though.
So let's see me pull it today.
Let's see you pull it. Really quick.
Sorry.
Before
Go ahead.
we get into this, my gold card.
Yeah.
It's still the Ava Mind Sensor. It is a very what's the word? Cannot be found.
Rare?
Sure.
Elusive.
We'll go elusive.
Elusive.
That's the word I was thinking of. It is a very elusive bird
Yes.
that I have not yet managed to find. Hoping that I will get it today.
Yes, he's hoping for it today.
I'm hoping for it and also hoping for it.
Kevin, since I got so pumped, I kind of pulled my rare while you were still talking.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh god.
But
You didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
All right, cool. I don't feel as bad.
Oh, thanks for that. I did get another cool card though. That in my opinion will see some play outside of standard.
Okay.
We'll go into it a little bit. So Dispossess. 2 colorless, 1 black that says choose an artifact card name. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the chosen name and exile them. Then the player shuffles his library.
That seems awesome.
Yeah, it's great. If there is a combo that works off of an artifact, Aetherworks Marvel, you could just totally take them off of it.
Or
right?
Or Tinker into Blightsteel.
Well, yeah, sure. Anything like that, you can just zap it away on turn 3. The card doesn't have to be anywhere specific. You're looking through their graveyard, hand, and library. That's everywhere it can be, and you just take it away.
It's also worth noting it's really great against decks like Affinity and
Very
like
true.
Modern or anything like that. It's just amazing. You just take out any of the problematic cards,
Yeah.
Steel Overseer or something like that.
Yeah, so I think it's great.
Yeah.
It is a little bit specific when it says artifacts, of course, but
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
it's still going to hit stuff that you want to get rid of.
It's sideboard tech.
I think so. You might even sideboard 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah,
depending.
maybe so. It depends.
Kevin, open that pack, buddy.
All right. Oh. Okay.
All
All right.
I
I got a
don't-
little happier. First of all, I got a rare and a foil rare.
I just want a quick aside with the audience for a second.
What's wrong, Will?
Some people have all the stinking luck.
I mean, it just happens.
I don't.
We'll go over the rare first.
I'm a little salty, but I'm happy for my buddy.
We'll go over the first rare.
Yeah, what's the rare, Kevin?
The first of 2.
Mm-hmm.
Harvest Season. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped
Mm-hmm.
creatures you control, and put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library.
I love this card.
Pretty great ramp card. I like it.
I love it. I think it's gonna be great in Commander.
Think of it like you play a bunch of mana dorks,
Okay.
tap them all for mana, and then play Harvest Season.
Ooh.
They all count to pull
That's
out lands.
true.
That seems
Wow.
really great to me.
What's up?
And then
What's that foil?
that foil rare.
Debt foil.
Ladies and gentlemen, It's the Avon Mind Sensor. We got it, people. We got the Avon Mind Sensor.
Out of left field.
Yeah,
in
2
foil.
and a white for a 2/1 bird wizard, which is the best creature type other than whale.
What is it, Kevin? Ubwizzled.
Ubwizzled. It has flash and flying, which is awesome. And if an opponent would search a library, that player, searches the top 4 cards of that library instead. So the obvious use is fetch lands. You just get to hose them.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I got it.
Fetch lands, tutors, stuff like that.
Yeah, tutors. It's great and stuff like Commander and all that too.
You got it in foil, kids.
I did.
That
means I win.
I just don't feel like that's right. You gotta one-up me.
Should I get like a
week
non-foil? Should it have to be non-foil?
No, that counts, man.
Okay, I mean, I'm just
You
saying.
cracked your pack.
I did.
You pulled your guy.
I did.
There it is.
I win.
Yeah, all right.
No, you got in a head
Point
last
for
week.
Kevin.
So
I did, but that's fine.
So I'm really stoked. I have
Congrats.
I have to pick, another goal card. I have no clue what that will be. But we will stick with Amonkhet, I suppose, for now, since your next one was also an Amonkhet.
Oh, true.
Which is fine. So we will stick with that. I will have a card for everybody at the next episode, which will be tomorrow. Monday Deck Tech Day.
Yeah.
And with that, I think that's all we got for today.
Yeah. Good Sunday episode down. Talked about some quadrant theory. Talked about different types of control.
Yeah.
Someone opened a really good pack. You know, we just talked about some stuff.
That was me. That was me.
We hope you have a great day, great week starting tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm Will.
I'm Kevin.
This has been It Resolves.